Welcome. Here we are on LinkedIn and live. What an exciting thing to do. I'm here with my dear, wonderful friend, Coral McGuire, who's the founder of the Profit Gurus. I'm Jeannie Whitehouse. I am the founder of a company called The Impactful Advisor. I have a bookkeeping business called Solve Services, working with wineries in the Napa Valley. I have the good fortune of working in a CPA firm here called Brote Markle Davis and Company, also focused on the wine industry. I just fell into that whole experience. And I have a speaking business called Even a Nerd Can Be Heard. I'm here today to share one of my favorite topics, to talk about what advisory is really like. And who better to talk about that than a real live advisor? Coral is doing it with real clients and everything. So, Coral, tell us about your background and how you got into this whole numbers game.
Yeah, Jeannie. So I want to start out by saying I definitely feel like a little bit of an underachiever with you with four businesses going, and I have my little one, right? I don't, do you sleep at all? I mean, that would be my first question.
Whenever possible, I try to fit that into my schedule. But things that fit together, when everything fits together, like it does in my life, it's really not as bad as it sounds. They're just pieces of things that all connect to the other thing. But
Yeah, it makes
thank you for
sense.
that.
I mean, I think I'm similar in that way in how my business evolves, right? It evolves from being one
Yeah,
thing to adding more services, right? And more things you can make an impact on. So I've
yeah.
I've been in the accounting world my entire career, whether it be from being a little kid and my mother was in the financial world managing multiple bank locations, to then working as a bookkeeper, tax preparer, and on and on and on. Um, I I would have to say I have a natural proclivity for the accounting world. Definitely growing up, the puzzles and solving it. And I'm sure a lot of accountants feel the same way, right? We like to look at things
That's
and
right.
solve them and figure them out.
That's
I've
right.
been doing more of the advisory stuff for probably 10 plus years in some fashion, right? I may not have always been calling myself an advisor or charging for advisory services, but I've been doing it. It's just a matter of, you calculate in how many hours of experience you have, and the things you've seen in other businesses that you then share with a client, like in my experience, this is how that has handled and this is how we're going to figure this out. So you do a lot of it naturally. I think anyways, for me, that I, I just came across it naturally. I have no formal education, if you want to call it that. I have all real world experience, not only real world in always learning, always taking classes and training, but also in experiencing it myself. I don't think there's anything that I advise on or that I've worked with clients on that I haven't been through on my own, right?
And that's the most valuable kind of learning there is. And what I like to say is that everything that I've learned is from doing it the wrong way first, right? All the good stuff that we know, we learn
Exactly.
by crashing and burning, right? And then we figure out a better way, hopefully, if we're lucky, or eventually we
Right.
get to a better way. But yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense. And most accountants, I think, would say, Coral, that they are doing some sort of advisory. And one of the things that our material, so Coral and I are connected currently through Level 5 advisory training, which I have the privilege of offering through the Impactful Advisor website. And that's about teaching accountants how to do structured, repeatable, intentional advisory. And one of the things that Edie Osborne, who created the material, says is that, we all did what she calls random acts of consulting. And I think through our careers as just professionals working with companies of any kind, somebody will ask us to do something that we've never done before, and we will blaze a trail and figure it out, right, Coral? I mean, what kind of things did you come across that
Yeah,
people would ask you?
definitely. Definitely. I don't think I've ever been one of those types of people that's like, let me go research and figure it out and put together a plan. I'm like, let's hit it head on. Let's figure this out together. I never work with a client and say, sure, I know how to do that. And I'm very open with, I don't know, but we're going to figure it out. Probably to the point where my tenacity on that situation causes me to push the client more than maybe they're comfortable with, which has good results usually, right?
Yeah, it's part of our role, I think. And, we talk about being advisors, but what we're really trying to be is partners in our clients' business success, right? I mean, we're trying to take them somewhere. And we have a unique perspective because in most cases we're looking across different companies and we learn things from one or the other, but also that we're not involved in the day-to-day grind like they are much of the time. And so we can just ask different questions. So how have you seen that work in your case, Coral? What is it about the questioning part? And do you have to show up as an expert? Is that what we're supposed to be doing?
No, no. I will say my mother said I was blessed with the curiosity gene, for lack of a better word. I mean, even as a little
Yeah.
kid, right? I'm in the grocery
Yeah.
store and my mother's rolling her eyes by the time I've asked that stranger next to me the 500th question, right? So and I will
I
say
love it.
some of my clients feel the same way. They're like my initial meeting with a client is like 12 pages of questions where I'm asking them things. And I will say a lot of that's just that natural curiosity, but where you came in and helped me a lot was in that structure, in that workflow, rather than just randomly, you know, pivoting on the spot and going, wait, I have something about that. Let me find it. You really
Yeah.
helped me get not a workflow, but just not only more of the different areas to help in and categorizing them and group them, which is, we accountants love that, right? Like, oh, there's a
Yeah.
system for this and a system for that and
Yeah.
a product for this or that. But it also asked a lot more questions than I was used to asking. So it definitely gave more information. And I use that information first and foremost is just to guide that client into their own clarity, right? I mean, more than anything,
Yeah.
I want to ask enough questions to help them figure out where they want to be. So,
And sometimes we don't realize that that's a valuable thing to do, right? We kind of think we're supposed to be the answer people. And,
right.
and I like to say, if you've ever had any kind of therapy or talk to anybody who's a healer or health professional, they never just jump into go do this and stop dating the jerk or whatever the issue is. They ask you questions and eventually you figure out, oh, how stupid am I that I'm doing whatever it is? And that's where the power comes. When I can figure out in my own words and in my own way what it is, then that's a successful journey for that person. So it's the same kind of thing, but we're trained to be the knowing it all people that have our own vocabulary, right, Coral? So how do we get ourselves to come at it in a different way? How did you get there? Why did you come to this training? You've taken every training on the planet, I think. You're the most trained human being I know in how to do things better. So why did you
Yeah.
need anything else? What was your journey through all these different things that you've taken? So talk about some of that.
I mean, I'm definitely a lifetime learner. I'm a tax loophole lover, right? And I don't mean to say that the wrong way, but I mean, I
Yeah.
always want to find the better, faster, more efficient way to do things when it comes to technology. I always want to be the one to help my client save money, put more money in their pocket through some sort of strategy, through tax planning, whatever I may come across. So yeah, I've taken tax planning training, I've taken automation training, I've taken business advisory training. I was going to say I kind of have a little bit of a struggle calling myself a business coach. That transition from accountant and accounting firm to business coach, there's just a
Yeah.
jump there that's difficult for me. But based on what you were saying earlier, I'm like, hey, maybe we should be accounting therapists, right?
We
Financial
are.
therapists,
We
right?
are. We are. I mean, we're doing that. We're the one person that owner of the company can reveal their deep, dark secrets to.
Yeah,
They're
some we don't
opening
even
the
really want to
kimono.
know.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to know that you didn't file that for 20 years. No, 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 no. There's sometimes we have to do that, cover the years. But I mean, it really is, they really have to trust us deeply and well in order to be comfortable and really telling us everything we need to know. And so that's the
Yeah.
first job is to earn their trust. But so describe more some of the other trainings that you have and why you at this point felt like you needed to add another advisory thing. So I mean, you've done the profit first
Yeah.
methodology. So list some of the programs you've done.
Yeah, Profit First is probably the one I've been most passionate about, the one that I've really seen an impact and a change in the clients I've worked with, as well as in my own, right? Um,
Yeah.
if if you know of the Profit First book, Mike Michalowicz, who wrote the book, um,
Yeah. A bunch of books. He's written a ton of
yeah,
books.
he's written a ton of them. Actually, several of them are behind me here, right? But
Yeah.
so I don't want to say I'm a Mike Michalowicz groupie, but I definitely have
You are.
loved. I know, right? So I definitely have loved some of the things he's put out there and the training that I've got. But it's still just another tool, just like your stuff is. It's another way to do the most important thing, which is communicate with my client and make sure my clients understand, right? The people that I work with really gain enough information and insight from their business and what's going on. And that's mostly that tool. But Profit First is definitely, when I rebranded as the Profit Gurus and cash flow management. Cash flow has had the understanding cash flow and teaching that understanding to my clients and how it impacts so many areas of their business has been probably the biggest catalyst in why I became known as the Profit Gurus, right? Um,
Yeah.
and when COVID hit, I mean, that just, my
What
clients
happened?
that had already been practicing Profit First, it helped them survive. I mean, I had, people in the cosmetology field that were locked down and then opened up and locked down and then opened up, just like the restaurant industry, right? And
So,
because of
so,
Profit First, they had that covered in a lot of ways.
so tell me more about that. What about what they knew from Profit First made them able to weather that storm? What was it that they had savings set aside, or what they had some minds, or what was the aspect of that
Yeah.
worked with
Yeah.
them?
So the standard structure of Profit First, of course, is you pay yourself profit first, right? If
Right.
you're just
Right.
putting, if you're just putting your money back into your business, why aren't you just go and getting a job somewhere, right? You want to make sure
Yeah.
that you get paid for the effort and stuff in being an entrepreneur that you put into your business. So that's the profit part. In your
Yeah.
business, you're still getting your paycheck. You're still getting what you need to live comfortably, right? So you want to take that off the top. You want to take your taxes off the top of the money you bring in that you've earned, right? And then whatever's left, there's some other parts to it, but whatever's left is how you know that that's what you need to run your business on. And if there's not enough there, then you need to look closer at your business. We know that you need to increase sales or decrease expenses, but there's more to it. Where else is your money going to? So once you get that established, the next thing we want to look at is, do we want to use the money that you have besides operating your business, now that you know what that is? You want to use the extra after you've paid yourself, you've got taxes set aside. Do you want to put that into reserves? Do you want to put that in a vault? Do you want to have that available for a rainy day or some big product, or in case COVID happens, right? Do you
Which we
want
all knew
to,
to plan
right,
for,
right.
right?
We
We
all
all knew
predicted that.
this was
Yeah.
coming. Yeah.
So,
So,
or do you need to
okay.
pay off debt? Obviously, we're going to look at debt first. Let's get you out of debt more than anything. Get the company out of debt. Pay that off first, then determine. So, a lot of my clients, myself included, have gotten to the point where we've built a vault, a reserve, a rainy day fund of anywhere from 3, 6, 12 months. So, when I pay an expense now, I'm really paying it into a reserve account because I already have 12 months worth. So that when COVID hit, I had 12 months
Yeah.
to pivot. I could pay my rent for 12 months at my office. I could pay my salary to give me time to figure out a new way to work. That worked really well for, like, one of our nonprofits who did on location school training, for schools who came in and did stuff. And they
Yeah.
were
And
able
that
to
died.
figure out and pivot and go virtual and survive
Yeah.
as a nonprofit. So that was really helpful for them.
How does that feel as a person working with a company to know that you've had an impact like that? What's that like?
It's it's amazing. It really is. I mean, when I look at where I get my passion and I want to make sure I measure, did I make a difference in the companies, right? Because
Yeah.
yeah, it's great to say, hey, I'm making money. I'm putting money in my bank account. I'm paying towards my retirement, whatever I may be doing. That's obviously great. And everybody deserves to do that. But I really, really, really love making a difference in those businesses. And that comes back to a personal challenge, personal struggle experience that I had, which is, well, two things. One is, I know that those workaholic entrepreneurs where, the kids are at home on what they used to call the latchkey system. They're eating dinner in
Uh,
front of the television and, sharing mom and dad with the business that they're focused on daily. I wanted to stop
yeah.
that. I wanted that better work-life balance. I knew from a personal standpoint how unemployment, how losing income really affects a family. And
Mm,
one of the things I read, and I don't remember the exact information, was that 50% of all businesses fail in the first year. And of those that survive, 80% of them are gone by year 5 or whatever. I read somewhere at one point that if we could solve that and save like 1% of those failing businesses, we could eliminate unemployment in the United States. We could create
And
jobs.
and poverty and children struggling without meals and all of those things that are tied to what we're
Yeah,
able to do for business. It's right. That's why I
right.
see that as our mission, that we're
So
keeping businesses alive to keep families happy and healthy. It's a it's a
I, I,
it's a
I
mission.
really hopefully believe that start a business, create a job. I mean,
Exactly.
it didn't
Yeah,
exist before, and now, that's what I think
that's right.
I want to
And then
measure.
and then impact a bunch of other businesses. I mean, whatever you're buying or selling, and you're supporting other people that you're hiring, and your services that
Right,
you're using, and all of that. You're buying computers that keep. I mean, there's so many ways that that new business impacts somebody else's business, and we need to
right.
see it that way. I think it's a ripple effect in everything that we do, whether it's a business or something else. But that's great. Okay, so the profit first stuff help people have reserves basically to fund whatever came next.
Yeah, during
So,
COVID, several of my
yeah,
clients,
during COVID
right?
and in other cases. So, why did you need to do something? Why did you want to go find out more? So, what else did you want to add to your amazing toolkit that you already had?
I think the next
What
thing
were you
I
looking to
added
do?
was really getting an understanding of tax planning. Obviously, I started to see clients who I was like, maybe from a tax standpoint, you do a little bit better as a corporation or an S corp situation. They've been
Yeah,
running as a sole proprietor, and I'm like, they're working towards retirement. Obviously, as I started working towards my retirement and looking at, okay, I need to put money away for retirement, I started to learn tax strategies, which just made me interested in them. So I started reading
yeah,
about them and taking those one-off courses, and then really went into wanting to thoroughly understand as many tax strategies as I could for the different business entities, to help them put more money in their pocket and
yeah.
still be within legal requirements of paying taxes. Which I don't think
So,
paying
do you?
taxes is a bad thing. I think it's if you're doing well, you're paying taxes. So there's a good side
That's
to it.
right, and that's
Just
a
pay as little
mindset
as you
shift.
can. Yeah.
That's a mindset shift for many people who don't like the idea, which mean they don't like to make money. You don't,
Right.
you gotta, if you have enough tax that you owe, then that's an indication that you have done something successfully in terms of generating profit in some way,
Yeah.
or
But
generating
definitely
that
pay
income,
the least
the
amount
least
you
amount you
can.
can.
Yeah.
So, do you do tax filing for clients, or do you just help them with tax planning, or what's your business
I
model?
do tax preparation only for my clients. So if I'm working with them on their business, then I'll do their business taxes and in turn do their personal taxes so that we can look at a full
Okay,
tax planning. So I
okay,
have several clients that are what I call full service, where we're meeting, we're advising, we're looking, we're planning, we're
yeah,
doing taxes. We run that whole circle just because I feel it's very holistic in being
yeah,
able to understand what's really going on. I don't have a problem with clients going, oh, no, 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 my personal taxes are elsewhere, but I really can't make
yeah.
the same impact if I don't know what's happening on that around that
You need the
corner,
full picture. Yeah, you need to be
Yeah,
able to see all the
yeah,
way across, because what you do over here is definitely going to impact what you do over there.
yeah.
So, just give us a an example. So, if somebody's a sole proprietor and you think they should do better with their tax planning, why would they want to go to a more formalized entity? What kind of things have you seen it from that perspective for small business? Because there are a lot of sole proprietors in the world.
So obviously the big one that we all know, but a business owner may not know, is just the payroll strategies, right? So when you're
Tell
when you're a
explain it.
sole Yeah, when you're a sole proprietor, you're paying all those self-employment taxes. And some people say, it's a break even because some of that self-employment tax is now paid on your business, but that still flows over to you. But really, the calculations show there's a pretty big savings when you're doing those tax strategies, especially if you're at a point where you're wanting to put money into retirement, right? Because that's the next strategy that I always love to look at is not only are you paying yourself a salary and you're not paying all the self-employment taxes, but your company is, which is lowering your bottom line, then that amount is what you're paying taxes on, that lower bottom line. But also that retirement part, because I mean, you can
To
set up
fund it.
retirement. Yeah, you can set up retirement as a sole proprietor too, and everybody should. everybody should be required to start retirement savings at 18. That's my opinion.
At 9 years old. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But
okay, so why S corp or C corp? Because I'm not seeing people go into the C corp at all unless they have a strategy where they really want to accumulate the funds in that business, because it's hard to get the money out, the capital back. But why not LLCs or LLPs? So S corps have some distinct advantages for people when it comes to salaries and things like that. So is that why you're seeing a lot of people go in that direction?
yeah, and there was talk this last year about getting rid of some of those advantages for S corps, and I think we were all praying like, don't let this go through, and that happened. But so that didn't come to fruition, thank goodness. And so there are still advantages. And obviously, I always explain to clients, look, there's two reasons to form an LLC or an S corp. One is a tax strategy, and one is a legal strategy.
Liability.
Once again, yeah, you got to look at the big picture, right? And I'm not an attorney, so I would never. I want to educate them enough to say, go find out more. But I'm not giving legal advice. So
yeah. And I know a lot of people went to the LLC and LLP entity over the S corp, I think because of primarily investment restrictions on the S corp, the type of owners you could have and some of those things. And many of these other bigger entities wanted to be able to bring in different kinds of investment. So it's one of the strategies, but all of those for companies that might be listening to this are strategies for pass-through taxation, where the individual taxes pass through. The S corp has more options in terms of what an owner can do for some of their own transactions. And what you're saying about the tax thing is that by having a payroll set up, you don't run into that problem at the end of the year where the owner hasn't funded their taxes.
Right? Because you got to remember, as an S corp, they want to make sure that the shareholder, the owner, is on payroll. I'd say one of the biggest things I see, and I don't mean to say it the wrong way, but the online do-it-yourself set up a corporation thing. What's the number one thing that happens is they don't understand they still have to file Form 2553 to elect as a subchapter S. So, either they're choosing to set up an LLC and they want to be taxed differently, but really they didn't file that form, or they're choosing to set up as a corporation and then file the form to become a subchapter S, and then they don't do it. And so now you're scrambling going, well, what do we do? Are you a full C corp, or are you still a sole proprietor?
So you're an LLC filing is there's a lot of things. There's a lot of complexity, but also lots of opportunity. But what you need is the right advisor, both the tax advisor and the entity, who can consider options across all of your various lives, your entity lives and your personal life and all of that stuff. And also your goals, which is one of the things we talk about in the training that you're going through, Coral, is, how can I advise somebody without an understanding of why they're doing what they're doing and what it is they're trying to accomplish, both at the ended mind stage and across different aspects of the business.
Right.
So,
it's really hard to hit a moving target. So what's that target, and how do we stop it from moving and know where we're going?
Yeah. And how do we write it down and make sure that everybody on our team, if we have a business, understands what that target is? So I have to have you talk still about why it is you needed my stuff, because I'm like, I think I need to come and get you to teach me things. So why what we're doing over here? How did you find out about it, and what made you want to come and get involved with this training? And this is a 6-month program that you're going through, and you're in a cohort, which is a group offering of online training. So I'm offering online training, do it yourself, where you can just go through it. And then I'm offering a sort of a hybrid. And then the group that you're in, which is a public group of people from different companies coming together every week to talk about the material that you're supposed to cover on your own. So it's do-it-yourself online material, and then I try to add, and we have discussions around what you've learned on your own time. So why did you get interested in this? How did you find it, and then what made you want to do it?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, I've heard you speak many times over, and I'm like, I want to be her. I want to be Jeannie. So that's what it is. I mean, it's really funny. I have here, I'll pull it over. I have here this little Post-it note, and it's literally Jeannie words. It says Jeannie words right on the top of it. And
what does that mean, y'all?
That's it, right? Y'all, gotta say y'all. It's words that you say that I want to add to my advisory conversations. And it's like, here's the words. I'm going to tell you some of them. Move the needle.
This is crazy.
Move the needle. pull the levers, push the levers, right? I mean, those are all words that you use that I'm like, I want to use those words. When I talk to a client, I want to
Well,
say, I'm
that
sorry.
just gave me chills. That is the coolest thing ever.
I
Genie
got to put my
words, and
words
it's not
back.
y'all or basset hound or grit. So that's really a cool thing. That's amazing. That's really
Yeah. So
so cool. But so yeah,
first and
so you heard
foremost,
me
it was
speak.
that. Yeah. And just the different things. I mean, I go to these conferences, these trainings. Once again, I'm a lifetime learner and I go to these and I'm
Yeah,
like, I take all these notes. Okay, Jeannie said this
yeah,
and here's what she talked about. I heard you talk about one of the things that's in your class is the scope process. And I heard you talk about that in one of your conference speaking gigs,
yeah.
probably 5 or 6 years ago. I don't remember how long ago it was.
I've been
And I wrote
talking
all
about it
these notes,
forever.
right? And I'm like, this is awesome. I'm going to do this. And then I didn't do anything because how many times do you go to these conferences and, the
That's the
vision's there, the execution is not. And
yeah.
and so I knew in taking this, I already knew from what you'd shared that you had value to give that I could add to my repertoire and make an impact. What I didn't expect was the interaction from the other people in the cohort to be so helpful. That was, I mean, I don't want to say I was like, oh, they're not going to be able to give me anything, but that's kind of how I
Well,
felt, right? And
well, I felt that way when I saw you sign up. You know all this stuff, and you're doing a bunch of really cool stuff. But and it's one of the things I've learned in my own lifetime learning. It doesn't matter what I think I know. There's always a different way to look at it. It may be that somewhere in my core I know something I should do, or I've heard about, or whatever.
right,
But sometimes one person packages it in such a way that it really hits a different spot and makes me actually move to action. And
yeah,
many
and that,
times, yeah, that's what it takes, right? The timing
yeah,
has to hit you at when you're at the right place to apply whatever it is that you hear. But that's one of the things about the cohort. We didn't have it when Edie rolled out the training just online. Again, Edie Osborne, who created it through a company called Mentor Plus, which is how I discovered it and started using it with wineries because I'd been trained in it, and then started speaking about it and incorporating what I do as part of my speaking curriculum. And on the road, I'm always talking about it because it's the coolest stuff that I know. I can't not talk about it. But
right. So here's a little
yeah,
story
go
for
ahead.
you. The very first conference, very first speaker that I ever heard was Edie, and I ran out and I ran her book
It's
and
amazing.
and read it inside and out. I still have it. It's probably the oldest book I have,
And
first business book I ever read. And I looked at her program and I wanted it, but I couldn't afford it, and I couldn't. I could probably have afforded it, but I couldn't justify it more than anything, right?
yeah, it
I'm like,
was really
I don't need,
expensive. It was really
right?
expensive and live only. And it was like at one point, it was 8 days. I think she made it a 3 day thing at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I look back now and I think if I had done all this way back then, would I have had all these turbulence issues throughout my whole business? I've had different ones probably, but
Yeah.
it would have made a huge difference. But I wasn't in the mindset at the time, right? And mindset's a
Right. All
big
right.
part of it. Even now, why did I take your course? Part of it's probably my own imposter syndrome, right? I doubt myself, and this just helps me confirm that I do know what I'm doing. We all have that, right?
Oh, every
But
day. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
yeah,
So you've been in it how long? I think we've done 14 sessions, somewhere around there, 14 or
yeah.
15
It's
sessions.
it's gone really fast, right? I mean, I'm
I know it has for me too. Every Friday morning early. Y'all wanted me to do it 8 o'clock in the morning, which is not my best
right,
hour of the day, but it's become. And my Fridays are something I really look forward to because I love seeing what people are doing with it week to week. So what's the
yeah,
cool part for me? And Coral, that I named this training the Impactful Advisor because I wanted it to be put to work. And one of the challenges Edie had for all those years of live training, 20 plus years in front of a bunch of CPAs who would pay a bunch of money to be in a 3 time a year meeting group to facilitate their implementation of these concepts. And they would come, and I would be part of this for all these years. And everybody would come, spend a bunch of money to come to some event location. And she would ask them what they had done. And they would say, well, I haven't gotten around to it yet. I mean, every year, these same people would come and pay money year after year to be part of a group and never get to implementation. And Edie would be frustrated beyond belief. In our firm, I had a managing partner who was doing it. And so I wasn't in the firm at the time, and I'm sitting next to him and I'm talking about it. I'm still in a speaker mode, not working with clients. I'm in a tech company at the time. So I'm not
Yeah.
working with, with business people, and he's doing it and I'm talking about it, and we're going and we're just sitting there going, why is anybody doing this stuff? So when I finally get out of the software company that I was in, and he reaches out and said, come work with me, I went, you're the only guy on the planet who's really doing this stuff. And there were many Edie trained firms all over the world and did all this stuff. People spent big bucks to get immersed in it. And still the application of it was lagging because you had somebody at the top who liked the idea but wasn't going to spend the time to really do it, and then they wouldn't train other people. So it was so frustrating. And so I said, if I'm going to do this stuff, it's going to be impact. If you want to make an impact, come do it. Otherwise, forget it. I don't want your money. I don't want you to waste your time. And that's what excites me when I get to be in these cohorts, because people come back every week and go, I use this thing at this client and they did this. And you're sharing it and seeing it. But I mean, from the first class, people were going, I took this thing. And what's interesting to me, Coral, is the people with the CPA designation who are trained and invested in this stuff are not doing it. And that's one of the challenges Edie had. Yeah. Traditional thinking CPAs thought they knew everything and weren't changing the way they did business. And it's people who are in the front lines with clients like you and I with bookkeeping work and transactional work and even tax and other stuff are seeing the suffering that clients are going through when they don't know better. So we really want to get in there and make a difference. So it's a very different model when you want to impact lives than when you just want to know more theory. And that's really the step that you have to take, which has been great for me. So tell me about, so you come into this class going, I know all this stuff. And, and I remember thinking in the first meeting, Coral knows everything. I'm going to have a hard time giving her anything that she can use.
Right. Well, I mean, I didn't know everything. I mean, thank you for your high opinion of me, but
well, I was like totally impressed and intimidated.
But even if there were things that you were teaching that I did know, you taught it in another way, and you teach it in a way that I can correlate it to how I can then teach it to my clients. So it's kind of passing on that same way. Definitely one of the things I was looking for that you hit the nail on the head was better and different ways for me to communicate the information to the client, right? Better and different ways for me to put it in terms they could understand and not talk accounting and financial speak that, sends their brainwaves out the door. But I guess to give it that redneck curve, right? That opinion of like, okay, let's put this in real terms. You're out of lemons on your lemon tree or whatever, right?
Yeah, apples on your apple.
That was it. Your apples, yeah. So,
and that's really where I spent a lot of my energy, was trying to figure out, because I kept running into these brick walls where people didn't know what the heck I was talking about. And also, when I started in tax, it was a tax partner in a firm in Atlanta, but I had gotten into that firm by building a practice around software consulting, where I went out to small clients. And I had to get them comfortable before I could help them, before I could even get them to tell me what was going on. They were so intimidated by a nerdy accountant coming out, and they were so ashamed that they didn't understand accounting, that I really started focusing on how can I translate this stuff so that they get it and aren't afraid anymore. So I spent a lot of energy when I was one-on-one with people trying to find a way to make them understand it so that they wouldn't be afraid. And so they could also apply it in doing things. So a lot of my focus for all of those years, and then going into high tech, I had to do the same thing. I had to take scary technology and find a way to make it embraceable. I got involved in this initiative called XBRL, which was about the gooberiest thing you could ever imagine. It was an AI CPA initiative based on XML data files. And it was early in the discovery of this code language. But they brought in all these geniuses from all the big 8s or big 6, whatever it was at the time, and a bunch of tech companies to try to make it actionable stuff, to get us technology people to apply this thing. And I went to this meeting and I sat in this room with these people talking about stuff. And I sat there I probably went to 4 meetings and I didn't know what the hell they were talking about. It's like, I don't know what this goobery, garbagey stuff is. And one guy stood up and did this humorous thing. And then they had a guy talk about the Rosetta Stone, which is a stone that basically has the key to translating a bunch of different languages on it. And they said that this XBRL was going to be that for data. And all of a sudden I went, oh, that's what they've been talking about all this time. But I saw the power of that, bringing it down to the level where somebody can connect to it. And then I took it, and then I would talk about this thing, and I went around and started talking about it through how Navision, the company I was with at the time, was going to apply this technology to let you communicate across systems, basically. So it was like a translation for data across different systems. But that experience of being the person going, what the heck? And I can't raise my hand and go, can somebody explain what the hell the point of this thing is, please? But for me to figure out how to make it resonate so I could then use it to sell technology was sort of the path that I've been on ever since.
Right.
So
and
go ahead.
That's how our clients feel, right? When we talk to them, they're like, and I don't want to look stupid. And then here I am running a business that's, millions of dollars in revenue, but I have no idea
I really don't
what
understand
you're telling me, right?
Yeah. And this
that's
whole
just
thing
on the
about the
financial
lever.
side.
Yeah, the lever stores. They don't understand why cash flow is bad and where the items are that I can fix until we.
And even so, one thing that you've brought in for more than that is helping me figure out how to communicate not only the financial levers to pull, but how they affect the other levers, like the customers or the people that you work with, or your processes and systems, right?
Yeah. And this is stuff we never think about. We're always focused on the financial statement things, and it's really all that other stuff going on under the radar that we have to change, or at least connect to, if we want to get the financials to come out differently.
And definitely getting the business owner to look at what leading indicators rather than lagging indicators. A lot of them are like, oh, I just want you to put my numbers in place. Well, great. And yeah, you need that, but that should be a byproduct of what we're really working on, right? That should be like, where are we headed, and what do we need to do to intentionally manipulate and move information and numbers and operations in order to make a difference in where you're trying to get to. Not, here's what happened. That's a lagging indicator. We want leading indicators more than anything.
We want those input measures. That's what we're trying to get to. Well, I have to say, Cora, your clients are very, very lucky. And we hope we have more people that are out in the world that are like you, that can make a difference for clients everywhere. It's been a 22 plus year struggle for me to get accountants to really get their arms around these concepts. And I think finally the marketplace gets it. The clients are demanding that we are partners in their business success, that we give them numbers that aren't just old and tired and after the fact, that we answer difficult questions or ask them different questions. And the technology is finally there. So how does technology figure into your own business, Coral? How much of that do you use? And did it change during COVID?
So, I've been virtual for a long time.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. What I found was the people, it's that necessity, that supply and demand, right? Or necessity is the mother of invention. That's what it is. But the number of clients who were like, oh, no, I have to meet in person, all of a sudden figured it out, and were willing to accept my help to help them figure it out.
Yeah.
I've raved about Zoom for meetings for years and years and years. I honestly wish I had bought stock when I first talked about buying stock right before COVID, right? We all do. But, so that's been around for a long time. And I've always used recordings to try to communicate where I can, because I understand business owners are busy. I've always been an early adopter. Part of that learning, part of that research and experimental stuff, and just hitting the ground running and stuff has always been, what's the latest and greatest, and new squirrel, right? New technology, and how can we automate? Why did I start learning Zapier? Because I saw the potential and I wanted to become a Zapier expert. That was one of my learning things.
Take a second to explain what that is for people who might be listening and not know what that is.
I like to explain Zapier as the language interpreter, the bridge between two programs that can't speak to each other directly. So in the world of accounting and QuickBooks, maybe QuickBooks can't speak directly to your CRM system for some reason, or your point of sale system. And so you can use Zapier to automate in between the two. And there are other programs besides Zapier that do the same thing. But that's
Yep.
basically how I like to explain it in layman's terms. Is it's a way to automate. And I'm all for, look, I don't want you paying me by the hour, by the project, whatever, for doing a bunch of data entry. I want zero data entry if I can help it. I want to spend that time really working with you on changing things or improving things in your business. And the only way we can do that is to have really good and really accurate information that is not taking anybody's time wherever possible to get it done, right? So how can we automate? How can we put that in place?
So wait, Zapier is the XBRL of program exchange of information.
Right.
So XBRL was only financial statement stuff that they were trying to move back and forth between different ports, but it was built on XML, which is a rather commonly used exchange mechanism. It's not in the case of Zapier, I don't believe. They're using APIs and application programming interfaces and connecting directly to the table structure behind the applications that we use. A very powerful tool used by a bunch of people, and all the smart people like Coral are much more expert at that than I will ever be. But it's a very powerful way for us to get data in and out of different systems. So, and that's a lot of the work that we as accountants are doing, I think, from now and going forward. We're doing a bunch of BI stuff, business intelligence work, and aggregating data across systems that don't communicate, and pulling it out just to get a report, which is also a challenge for many people. So talk more about other technologies. So Zapier is the correct way, I believe. Yeah.
I always wonder that. Zapier or Zapier?
I don't know. Well, they say Zaps. Yeah. Say Zaps for short. So yeah, I think that's the right.
So we'll go with Zapier.
Yeah. Okay. So what else? So what else are you using? How else is automation figuring into what you do?
You got me kind of on the spot. I've got Zapier in my head right now. So
talk about automated bill pay and automated payment solutions and how you're getting client invoices into QuickBooks and all that stuff around what we're doing in the accounting software to make life easier.
I want to say 8 to 10 years ago, the very first automation tool that really had an impact on my business and my clients' business was Bill.com, right? That was the eye-opener for me of like, wow.
Big. That was big. I started using it in my own business back then, and it was huge. I could get paid faster.
Right. And I mean, I had a client who literally issued like 400 payments a week, and to have that automated, I mean, just import it in and push it out. I mean, it took a full-time person's job down to like 20 minutes. And
remember all this trouble we went to line up the checks when we were doing that ourselves?
Right.
Yeah, gone.
Yeah, and accidentally put them in reverse order where the numbers were wrong, or printed backwards.
And void 97 pieces of paper that you'd all printed the wrong thing on the wrong line. And it's hard to imagine that we function that way now. So Bill.com, which is automated workflow, approvals, bill pay. You can do accounts receivable and payables. And that was really the first automation that came along for many of us in this space. And it could attach to some of the desktop applications as well as the cloud apps that came along as well, like the QBOs.
Yeah. I mean, I'm now, I don't accept any more clients on desktop. I have one client left on desktop. I'm cloud-based just because of the automation. I mean, there's a few clients that desktop's not a good fit for. But it's becoming less and less obvious. You mean
the QBO is not a good fit? Some people still hang on desktop. Yeah, because there's some inventory capabilities. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So what else? So what other automation are you applying for client work?
For technology, I go to the conferences just to learn the new latest and greatest. And one of the things I was going to say was, I kind of am sad that I'm not like brand new into the business world, like 19 or whatever now, because I don't get to see where it's going to go. At some point, I'm going to be 90 years old going, I don't know how to work the remote control anymore.
I know it's hard, isn't it?
I'm sad. I don't want to go there. Yeah.
There's so much new stuff coming out. And I have a suite of, we're using auto entry for lengthy involved invoicing. In our industry, we get 20-page invoice documents. So we need all that detail in for the winery. So we're using auto entry to help us automate the flow of that over to QBO. We're using HubDoc, where many people are using Receipt Bank to get the invoice entry coded first and then attached to the QBO transaction inside there. And then we're using Bill.com for
Yeah.
bill pay. We're using Veeam for global payments and internal domestic payments without fees. And we're using all this stuff. And every day you think you've figured out the best thing, and then something else comes along, and you either
Right.
add that or unplug and replace, or how do you deal with
And
that?
I've had to learn that. My team is the first one who hit me and said, "We're going to boycott you if you change one more time what we're doing
and,
here," right?
and our
Because I'm all
clients
about
have
the
to.
shiny squirrel. Yeah,
Yeah,
and then
me too.
clients.
Me
And
too. I keep
that's
doing
a
that too.
business learning thing where I've had to really take a look back and go, what's my client experience? Because for me, I'm like, it's gonna be better. And they're just like, I can't learn anything else.
I
Just stick
know.
with
I know.
something, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
But now with all the bank security crap that keeps breaking the bank feed connections to many of these things,
yeah,
we're having to switch some of these things, which means we got to get the clients to re-log in all the time, which defeats the whole point of us taking all this on. We don't want them
right,
to have that burden. But in some
right.
cases we're having to get dragged back into that. So what about managing your practice and client communications and workflow? What do you have going
So
on there in your firm?
we've ran the gamut. We've looked at all the big ones to the little ones to the free ones as far as task management and project management. There's a ton out there, whether it be Asana or Trello, which can be free or paid. We've
Yeah.
been with ClickUp now, ClickUp
That's
for
where
three
I am. I
years.
love that thing.
So
I
I got
love that.
certified in ClickUp. I'm a vetted certified
Wow, I
consultant in
didn't know
ClickUp.
that.
I don't really do much with it. There's a lot of things like that I
I
get
just
where
have my
I just
to-dos
want
in
to
there.
use it. Yeah. I have a team of 9, so we communicate internally on there. And we were actually one of the areas we were really struggling in was a client portal. We were very clear on what we wanted. We wanted to be able to have
Yeah,
bi-directional file transfer. We wanted to be able to have
yeah,
communications, and we wanted to be able to have task assignments for the client and follow-ups on that. And at the
yeah.
time, there wasn't anything. There's a couple of new ones out there right now that are very
Lisio,
promising.
Lisio,
Liscio,
mobile app capable. Yeah,
yeah,
it's great stuff.
Keeper is a big one. I mean, there's a few good ones
Yeah.
that have come out, and we ended up building our own in ClickUp, and
Wow.
it's working great. It can be a little bit clunky in some areas that some of these newer programs can handle, but I don't want to change my clients. So that falls back
Yeah,
into not putting my clients through another transition. They're comfortable with it. There is a little bit of an onboarding learning curve, which we created videos to explain it to them, and that's their first set of
yeah,
tasks in there. But
yeah.
it's
That's
been
good.
really helpful to have that kind of all-in-one system. There's the internal task management, project management, and communications, and then there's the external, which is the client facing. So
Yeah,
and so
fantastic.
ClickUp, it has worked really well. It's definitely helped me manage things, and because as you grow, as any company grows, and it's no longer just you doing everything, you start to lose track of what's going on in your own
Of
business, right?
everything. Yeah.
It's
People
horrible.
doing things. Yeah. We're going through the same stuff our clients are going through. As they grow, it requires a different skill set of the owner and the leader, and also different tools to support that communication that doesn't happen. And also, when you throw in the forced remote for everybody, even those of us who may have had offices, we have to find different ways to stay connected with people that we may
Right.
not have
And
thought of before.
just like my clients, I went into bookkeeping originally because I was a good bookkeeper when I worked for someone else. I didn't go into
Yeah.
it because I wanted to manage a bunch of people and I wanted to learn how to do leadership and I wanted to learn how to do marketing.
I,
Same thing with my clients. We learn
yeah.
it by having to go through those bumps, right? So
It's the Michael Gerber myth. I'm really good at some
exactly.
technical thing. It doesn't make me really good at managing a whole business and everything else that I have to do to be successful. That's right.
Right, right. So, that's
Yeah.
where do we spend all our time? I can kind of differentiate different phases of my business. Like, this is when I was working on systems and processes. This is when I was working on customer experience. This is when I
Yeah.
was working on leadership. I can relate them to all these different things where I was trying to improve certain areas and, you know, do, it's like, how much do I actually really do what I'm good at, which is the accounting, right?
Well, you're clearly
I
good at all
don't
of it,
do it
Coral.
anymore. I do so many other
So
areas.
the, the question is, what's the highest and best use of Coral, right? What's the highest and best use of your time? It's what you're doing to grow the business, to impact more people, to spread whatever amazing
Exactly.
intelligence you have across as many people as you can. And that, if that motivates us, then we have to have systems and processes to support us to do that. And that's
Yeah,
why
and
automation is so valuable right now.
that's what gets me out of bed in the morning. That, I mean, really knowing, like, I can look at that and say, look what I helped this company do. That is like where my passion lies. And I've always
The
loved teaching.
impact, right?
Yeah, the
Impact.
impact. And I've always loved teaching, and it's a form of teaching. It's a form of explaining in a way
Yes.
to a business owner, just like you teach anybody else, right? And
Yeah.
it really, to go back and say we're making a difference, we're heading towards those goals, has been where I love to spend my time. It's my why, as Simon Sinek,
Yeah.
it's my
Yeah,
why.
me
So
too. There's nothing like it. Seeing a light come on or somebody able to do something they didn't know how to do and to know that
yeah,
you had a hand in it at all. And if maybe it's just asking them a question they'd never thought about. It doesn't
yeah,
have to be that you've figured out how to rewire the world or do anything, but it's a very rewarding place to be. Very, very different from being what I was for 15 years, a tax preparer, a tax person who
right,
just handed them a return once a year and didn't really know what to tell them to do to make it things better in their own
yeah.
world. So,
And
this
the
is what
number
drives me.
of businesses who are still having that issue, right? They're just like,
And still
well,
getting crappy advice from their so-called trusted business advisor who's neither trusted or advising.
right,
Business technicians, as we call them, or trusted accounting technicians in many cases, which isn't really business, right? Accounting is just one
yeah,
aspect. There's
yeah,
operations, there's people, there's customer stuff, there's marketing, HR, all those things that we know in our
right.
own businesses that we struggle with. So Coral, what would you say? And we're getting close to time, so we're going to start wrapping this up. But what would you say is the biggest thing you're looking to do now that you've had an introduction to the advisory stuff that you're doing differently now based on what you know? Why would you think somebody would want to do this, make this commitment and acquire a new set of skills? You can sum it up or multiple things.
Look, anybody who's in our industry of the financial world, of the business support world, has to make that shift to where their business can still be viable and they can offer advice. With technology and automation, so much of that is going away that if you can't figure out a way to look at those numbers, look at that information that you're taking in and communicate it in a way that makes sense to your clients, then you're not going to be able
You're,
to sustain your own company. That's number one, right? I mean,
yeah,
and
you're not
and
going to
I
get where
think
you need to be.
I think a lot of us are in this. I don't think there's many of us really in this business just to record the numbers on a piece of paper. I think a lot of us are in there because we're like, why is this, or why does this do this? And
Yeah.
to be able to help your clients with that is the number one thing that.
And from my experience in working and talking, every time I speak at a conference, the best part of it for me is sitting down at lunch and just asking people why they're doing it and what they're doing and tell me about your business and what do you love. And it's always make an impact. That's why I came up with this brand. I
Yeah.
kept going every time. I was working with Madeline Pratt, who you may know, who's a member of our community, a great, powerful woman influencer. And she worked with me on the branding for this new Impactful Advisor business. And she kept saying, what is and the word, every other sentence, it was, I just want to make an impact. And I want people that want to make an impact. And people come to this profession. If you ask them why, I want to make a difference. It's not that
Right.
I want to get crap 100% accurate and put it in my books that it's 100% accurate. So I want people to be able to do something. And with our traditional accounting abilities and training, we don't have
That's
the ability
hard.
to really do that. You
That
can't go from,
transition is hard. I mean,
yeah, it's a big
when
leap.
when
Yeah.
you're that type A personality who wants to balance to the penny on everything when you
Yeah.
first start, and you have a boss, a business owner who's your boss, or a client, and they're like,
Yeah.
I don't really care, I need to know, they have that bigger
Yes.
visionary look. If you
Yeah.
can't
What's
communicate to
happening?
them, right? One of my biggest
Yeah.
problems when I first started my business was clients going, please just give me something. And I would be like, no, 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 it's not perfect yet. Right. And they're like, but I
Exactly.
need
And it never
something.
is.
Right.
That's what they're
So,
saying to that today. All of them, they're going, we just need insight. Now it doesn't have to be right. It doesn't have to be 100%
right.
right. Give
Right.
me
It's
something.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to get to is, and now help those
That's
clients
true.
who don't know how to get that insight, move them
That's
past
right.
like compliance. Like, I just need my taxes done, to saying, well, do you want your business to be everything it can be? Right.
That's right. And we're just here to kind of steer you along the path. So, Coral, if people
Yeah.
want to reach out and get you to be doing their work, to work with them, how can they find you?
Yeah, they can go to
Get to Coral.
theprofitgurus.com. Theprofitgurus.com is my website. The other option is
Okay.
coral at theprofitgurus.com, right?
Okay.
So
And
you
you're
can
on LinkedIn, clearly,
yeah,
because we're
I'm on
connected
LinkedIn.
out here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what kind of clients are the right fit for you, Coral? Who's your ideal client? Where do they come from? All walks of life? Are there certain clients? Is there a focus? What
So
kind of clients are your fit?
when we decide on our clients, there's a couple of factors. Mostly it's personality. It's are they teachable? Are they coachable? Are they wanting to invest in time with me, right? Not
Yeah.
pass me off to, their admin assistant or whatever. I don't mind working day to day on the day to day stuff, but there's got to be some skin in the game from the owner in order to make that impact. So that's the first thing is working with not only the owner but maybe their whole team, right?
Yeah.
And really doing that. So that's the number one thing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
life's too short. I want to work with clients that want to work with me more than anything, right?
Yeah.
So
And that's really important to know where the best fit is and how you can have the most live your own dream, your personal why. And you can't do it with somebody who doesn't want to learn or advance or change or improve or listen or communicate. So that's
right,
great.
right. And if I'm not the right fit, I know plenty of people, and we have this cohort of people that, this whole community. I
Yeah.
don't do well with inventory. I don't like it. I don't. So I would say I wouldn't really take an inventory client. Doesn't mean I'm not going to
Yeah.
talk to them. Doesn't mean I can't analyze their
Yeah.
information, but I'm probably going to be better off getting them in connection with someone who's really going to make an impact, which is not
Yeah.
me. So,
I think that could be our closing note, Coral, that,
right. Yeah.
everybody needs to know where it is that they can make the biggest impact. And I
Yes.
think that's what we're all striving for. Everybody who's doing anything out in the world is trying to make a difference somewhere, to make their mark, to leave an impression, to do something that matters. And I think that's a
Right.
continuing thing, a struggle. And I think those of us who feel like we're able to do that feel very fortunate indeed. And I know you do, Coral. And again, I know your clients are very fortunate to have you in their lives. I'm fortunate that you're in my program. I think you've added so much already in the time that we've been together. I hope we can continue to do fun stuff together and that we can keep moving forward in every direction together. So thank
Yeah.
you
I
very
don't want
much
it to
for being
end.
here. I know. Well, we're going to keep going after that. And that's hard for me too. It's like we have a whole family in
Yeah.
place, and we don't want people to go off and go to college without us. But it happens at some point. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for being here,
Thank
for
you.
sharing your thoughts, and for doing great things in the world of business, and for in fact making an impact everywhere you go. So thank you so much. Take
Thank
care
you.
and have a great rest of your week.
All right. Bye bye.